Also in the bulletin, second batch of Ghanaian evacuees set to arrive home from South Africa. We have details. Plus, renewed calls for action on Ghana's perennial flood crisis as rains set in. Many thanks for joining us. Let's begin the bulletin from the health sector. And a major healthcare dispute is unfolding at the Komfo-Anokye Teaching Hospital in Kumasi, where doctors have announced industrial action over what they describe as worsening pressure on the facility, concerns about patient safety, and the suspension of the hospital's chief executive officer. In a strongly worded notice, the Komfo-Anokye Doctors Association, KADA, argues that the challenges facing the hospital are systemic and require urgent policy and infrastructure interventions rather than punitive measures. In a statement released moments ago, they raised some key concerns, including: 1. They cite severe congestion and infrastructure strain at the emergency department as a major patient safety concern. The association also condemns the suspension of the hospital's chief executive officer, describing it as unjustified and counterproductive. They also argue that management's temporary halt of new emergency admissions was a necessary safety intervention and not misconduct. The doctors have declared a total withdrawal of services until key demands, including reversal of the CEO's suspension and clearer emergency management policies, are addressed. The association is also calling for urgent long-term investment into healthcare infrastructure, including operationalizing Sewia and Afari hospitals and retooling facilities in the Ashanti region. Well, let's stay a while longer on this and engage Evans Nkum, who is our Northern Sector Bureau Chief, who has been following this issue. Evans, thank you for your time this afternoon. Talk to us about this strike action declared by the doctors.
Well, Grace, so, you can always say that it was something that was expected, considering their earlier statements, which came just after the Ministry of Health has also issued a query letter to the Chief Executive of Komfo-Anokye Teaching Hospital. In fact, in that statement, they gave some signs that anything that will shatter the path of suspension or relieving the CEO of his post would also trigger an industrial action, even though it was not explicit. But, you can make inferences from how, their letter was written. So it doesn't come as a surprise to many who have been following development from the Komfo-Anokye Teaching Hospital. Last night, I said that, yes, they were having a crunch meeting over the matter, even though there has been some leads from the information that I was picking as far as the doctors, the group of doctors were concerned, or the leadership of the Komfo-Anokye Teaching Hospital Doctors Association was concerned. They were giving signs that they were not enthused about this particular decision by the ministry, and for that matter, they were also going to respond in a certain, one would say, proportional manner. And exactly what has happened. As I speak to you now, all emergency cases to the Komfo-Anokye Teaching Hospital, I'm talking about attending to emergency cases at the accident emergency center, especially, have been withdrawn, as the letter is stating. And of course, I can tell you that it is quite a chaotic situation at the accident emergency center now.
And Evans, just as you rightly said, we know the Komfo-Anokye Teaching Hospital that does not serve only the Ashanti region. People travel from far and near to access health care at the hospital. Apart from the chaotic scene you're seeing at the emergency center, are the other departments also affected, or this is restricted only to the doctors in that department or that area?
For now, the focus has been at the accident and emergency cases, center, because in fact, during night and weekends, I can describe the place as a peak period for that particular center, because that is where you see a lot of activities there. I mean, accident cases and, of course, emergency cases, other emergency cases, being it hypertension, pressure, and what have you, ambulance services, I mean, frequenting that particular place, very vibrant. So, I mean, you could feel that impact. And, of course, you're talking about the kind of services also delivered beyond the borders of Ashanti region. Currently, the Commonwealth Teaching Hospital, and for that matter, specifically the Accident and Emergency Center, is serving about 10 regions. I mean, that is how serious or how dire the situation is.
Evans, you know the Ashanti region and how some of these things play out. How do we see this pan out in the subsequent days? Let's say today, tomorrow, and probably by Monday.
Already, the letter issued by the Commonwealth Teaching Hospital, we were made to understand that on the average, 61 cases, emergency cases are coming to the accident and emergency center. So if they are going to withdraw, or if they have withdrawn their services, then we can do that mathematics. If on the average 61 cases are coming, the number of days that they are not going to work, we can only talk about tied up.
Right.
Yes.
Hello, Evans. I'm losing you.
Well, so, I mean, I said, let me just repeat it. I said that in their last statement to the public, I'm talking about from Kofanoche, we got to know that on the average, 61 emergency cases are coming, I mean, daily to the accident and emergency center. So if they are going to withdraw their service, or if they've withdrawn their services, we don't know the number of days that they are going to stay out of work. And that means 61,000 by the number of 61 cases by the number of days that they are going to withdraw their services. It means we're going to have a pile up and a very dire situation at the Accident Emergency Center. Great.
Right, Evans, thank you for those updates. We know this is definitely an issue that's not dying out anytime soon. We'll definitely come back to you for more updates on this. William Evans Nkum, our Northern Bureau Sector Chief, updating us on that strike action declared by doctors of the Kofanoche Teaching Hospital, especially in the Accident and Emergency Department, because of, among other things, the suspension of the CEO of Kofanoche Hospital by the Health Ministry and the other agency authorities connected. We'll bring you more on this, but let's move on to another issue of interest. And the second batch of Ghanaian evacuees from South Africa is scheduled to arrive today as part of the ongoing voluntary repatriation exercise amid recent security and anti-migrant tensions. Over 300 citizens registered for this flight, which follows a previous evacuation of approximately 300 individuals. Our Foreign Affairs correspondent Martin Esiedudate joins us with more on this. Martin, talk to us. What do we know about the arrival of the evacuees today?
Right, great. It's a good afternoon to you and our viewers. So information we have gathered indicate that by 4:30 this, I think that should be this evening, early part of the evening, by 4:30, the first batch should be touching down. What we had already earlier been told was that both aircrafts were going to be leaving the South African airbase at the same time. So Saturday was when both aircrafts were expected to leave. But the updates we are getting is that it is one that is coming today, 4:30 should be landing. And then tomorrow, Sunday, the second aircraft should be landing by 9:30 in the morning. So those are the updates we have. And earlier, the High Commission in Pretoria also gave clear indications as to how many people are coming. They actually even published their full details in terms of how many are men, how many are women, children, etc., and even their specific email addresses and contact details. That in itself was a bone of contention. People were questioning why the High Commission would want to do that. But it is important because, you know, the South African government earlier said that majority, about 90% of the first batch that came were all illegal immigrants.
Yes.
And that has been greatly disputed, for which reason the government has decided to publish the names and the contact details of all those that are coming now, so that if they have any qualms, they can raise it with them. Grace.
All right, Martin, how does it look like for us also on this side, preparations to welcome the evacuees when they arrive?
For the first batch that arrived, we realized that a lot of work had gone into preparations to welcome them. So we've gone to the airport just to have a fair idea of the preparations. We've seen that the Ghana Immigration Service officers have already set up their table, which is going to be the registration table. That's where they are going to be making sure that the database that they are going to be capturing tallies with the ones that have been already gathered in South Africa. Again, because in such situations, what usually happens is that they allow women and children to leave first, and then the vulnerable, the elderly. So the first batch that came, we saw many more women than men, and then a lot more children. The second batch, we're expecting a few children, a few women, but more men, because we are trying to clear that backlog as much as possible. You would recall also that earlier it was 300 people who were told had registered to come. The number increased to about 800. Now we are told they are in excess of 1,500. So the High Commission suspended the registration so they can clear the backlog and ensure that everybody leaves, because the exercise actually does take place at the Pretoria office or the High Commission. Yes, so and the place is not too big, so when they come they're just so congested. And I'm talking about people who have traveled from far and wide in South Africa all to congregate there. So they want to make sure that there's enough space so that when the next batch does come, they will have a place to stay at least a day before they move to the airport to fly out.
Okay. Martin, thank you for those updates. We'll see you at 4:30 when they arrive, and then you give us all the other information that we need to know. Martin, as you do that, my colleague and also our foreign affairs correspondent. This is Weekend Central on TV3. Let's do some more stories. Ryan, a coalition of human rights organizations, has condemned discussions at the recent African Interparliamentary Conference in Accra, arguing that a proposed charter threatens existing human rights protections under the guise of promoting African family values and sovereignty. Here are key highlights of the coalition statement capturing exactly what their concerns are. Well, the coalition says Robert Akoto Amoafo, who is a spokesperson for Ryan, is joining us on Zoom now for a conversation. Then we'll tell you about the key highlights of what they've been discussing. Robert, thank you for your time. If you can hear me, talk to us what your concerns are about this charter that the African countries are trying to sign at the just ended Parliamentary Affairs Committee meeting.
Much and good afternoon to your viewers. First of all, we are against the charter because it defines family to a very limited extent that does not support our current experience as Africans. The charter seeks to define family as a man and a woman with children, and then it later talks about other people joining in the family. But if you read the document further, it still limits its identity of family to a man and a woman with children. And for us, as far as we have experienced our families in Africa, they are diverse. We have families that have a grandmother and a grandchild. We have a family that have two orphans and they are living together without parents, and we can define them as family. Even for the fact that on our walk, I approached a woman who was doing space to space or doing mobile money, and she was asking me, what is this? And I explained to her, and she said, yes, of course. Even somebody comes here to do mobile money and the person starts discussing personal things with me, and the person comes here frequently, I see the person as my family. So that is the kind of conversations that we are having, that this charter does not reflect a true family identity. The charter also seeks to further limit sexual and reproductive health rights of women, because it takes away a lot of it requires states to take away the number of rights that women have when it comes to autonomy over their bodies. And those are the things that we think that we should not, could know, or even entertain as a continent.
Robert, you see, the conference organizers framed the discussions around African family values and state sovereignty. Why do you believe those concepts are being misused in this context?
Of course, like I've told a number of media houses, this is just a narrative conversation. Narrative in the sense that they want to use language, they want to use their own ways to push their agenda, so that we believe that what they are doing is good for us. If you don't pay particular attention, and these are politicians who are part of this conversation. Remember that politicians always use ways to get what they want. They would say things that will make us believe it is in our interest, only for us to look further and realize that there are things that need to be looked at carefully. I indulge everybody who is interested in the human rights and protection of people to have a copy of the charter and read for yourself and see that these things that are in do not reflect who we are. So even though they use family values, I mean, and for that matter, family values in our continent is diverse. You know, what an Ewe family, though we are together as a people and we are all one, what I understand is sometimes certain values that I will see in certain Ewe families will not be in my family as an Akan. It will not be different from a Ga family and what they believe and their traditions. So codifying and putting together our values in one charter does not seem to be the right way to go for us.
You made a statement in your submission that the charter also doesn't put right the autonomy of women's rights and reproductive health care access. Can you explain how you believe those rights would be affected?
A lot of the gains that we have today as a continent, as a country, Ghana, have come from the conversations around ensuring that women have autonomy over their bodies. The other key thing is around the international instruments that our states have gone to ratify, that enables them to put in place certain programs and have access to certain funding that goes to the health care of women in our country. Maternal mortality is a serious thing in our continent. Women performing abortion that is illegal in their homes because there's no access to correct, proper abortion in some of these health facilities is a serious thing.
Right.
And so when we see that our countries are signed up to international instruments that will push them to do the right thing, and this charter is asking them to draw themselves out of them, that is not something that we signed up for. We believe that we should not say, you know, most of the times these people talk about our African culture and African values and talk about how our old ancestors used to do things.
Yes, Robert, that brings me to my final question. The supporters of the charter say it is an attempt to protect African cultural identity from external influence. You don't think so?
No, I don't think so. What influence? Our states have had independence and sovereignty for so many years. What sovereignty do we need again to ensure that our people are okay? The sovereignty we are seeking from our states, our parliamentarians, our president, and anybody in place to ensure that we are well in government is to ensure that we have right amenities, water. Look at the floods that is hitting Accra. Why are parliamentarians not up in arms? Are the minority people pushing the current government to make sure that our gutters are distilled, that we put in place measures to ensure that our country is safe from flood? It was just raining a few minutes ago, and I was so scared about what will happen because my road that I use to work is always flooded because there's a big gutter, a gutter over there that always fills up and blocks the road. Those are the things we are expecting them to address.
Okay.
If every Ghanaian is calling on them to do the right thing and pay attention to the right issues, they will not waste our time. Parliament, the Parliament shutting down for 3 days for this conference to be held is not good for our economy and is not good for us taxpayers.
Okay. Robert, thank you for talking to us. Robert Akoto-Amoafo is spokesperson for Round. Let's move away from that, and former Secondary MP Andrew Ejapa Mercer says recent public disagreement among government officials point to growing disunity within the NDC. Speaking on key point, he argued that opinion polls should not be dismissed as they often reflect public perceptions of government performance. His remarks follow a caution from the Executive Secretary to the President, Dr. Callistus Mahama, against premature discussions about the NDC's 2028 leadership race. Mercer believes the caution indicates concerns within the presidency about the conduct and ambitions of some government appointees.
I'm really surprised at my brother, Dr. Mapo, this morning, who strenuously is seeking to delink the polling from what is actually happening on the ground. Because if the polling had no bearing whatsoever on happenings in government, the lamentations of the Executive Secretary of the President would have been completely unwarranted. But you read the text of what the Executive Secretary of the President put out only a month ago, May 5th, 2026. It tells you that indeed the center cannot hold. And that our friends in government really have a lot to deal with on their hands. Because 1 year, 6 months into the administration, if the Executive Secretary has cause to put out this letter, then I'm worried. It clearly demonstrates a government that is not in control of its appointees.
Is that what you see happening?
Precisely. Because otherwise, why would the Executive Secretary say there's quite danger that sometimes creeps to political not? Please, if you look at the actual text, okay, as reported by Herald, the Executive Secretary to the President, John Dramani Mahama, issued a stern caution to government appointees and party figures nursing ambitions to lead the National Democratic Congress, urging them to step aside if their political aspiration threaten to undermine their current responsibilities and the mandate of the administration. It is clear to me that they have seen that the actions of some appointees is undermining the agenda of the government. That if the Executive Secretary, having observed the actions of the appointees of the President to be undermining the mandate of the government, can only lament by writing letters and putting out in the Daily Graphic and not acting, then I'm worried. Because I would have expected that the President, if he was in control, would crack the whip and bring his appointees in line. But it seems to me that everybody is on the frolic of his own. To the extent that we saw the kinds of exchange that we saw yesterday in the media, I was completely scandalized that you have two ministries, two important ministries, bantering on social media, and you say that the President is what? Is in control? Look, it's the Ghanaian taxpayer that is suffering from the inaction of the government.
Meanwhile, Majority Chief Whip Roxanne Nelson Dafiamakpo has dismissed suggestions that the governing NDC is experiencing internal turmoil, insisting that the administration remains united and focused on delivering on its mandate.
Japan says that hey, we are not, this government is not in crisis, and I want to assure him. And you see, like I said, it's a natural consequences. Japan, time was when 17 persons came up out of your party to succeed President Kufuor. Time was. These are healthy occurrences in a democracy. But your point that people are hankering over their flag bearership ambitions and therefore abandoning governance and all that, I'm saying is inaccurate. The persons that have been highlighted, none have so far declared their flag bearer ambitions publicly, and therefore have marshaled resources and time and energy pursuing so. Third, I insist, and you can make that connection, I insist that the letter from the Executive Secretary indicating generally to appointees and those who have flag-bearer ambitions to resign, was actually amplifying the guidelines put out by the NDC for its internal elections. Because the General Secretary, if you recall, as part of the guidelines has indicated to the extent that even party officers who want to seek re-election, they should resign their positions in government. That's the first layer. First layer. For any person who wants to, a government appointee, if you are interested in contesting for any position within the party, at all the levels, you must resign 6 months to the elections. Now, if the executive secretary amplifies this in a letter to appointees and specifically maybe highlighting on flag bearership, I think it's in order. If you have an ambition, by all means, go and pursue it so that somebody else who is not interested in becoming a flag bearer can be appointed to fill. I mean, there can be no healthier call than this in terms of the governance. But he want to mischievously twist this and say that government is in crisis. This government is very healthy. We are focused. We are delivering on our mandate. We just delivered a major legislation reforming legal education. And I think that's my senior at the bar. I should be happy about that. We just delivered the other legislations. So my senior and brother Ejapa, calm down.
Well, let's do some flood-related stories now. And former MP for Sekondi, Andrew Ejapa-Mensah, has called out the NDC administration for failing to demonstrate enough commitment to tackling the flood situation in Ghana. He further wondered why the government was spending millions on 24-hour markets instead of fixing Accra's drainage systems.
Construct water retention and detention reservoirs in flood-prone communities to reduce the perennial flooding and for irrigation and other purposes. They also indicated we're going to construct and improve drainage systems in Accra, Kumasi, Takoradi, Koforidua, and other flood-prone cities and town areas. They also said they were going to construct water storage facilities, reservoirs to store rain and pipe-borne water. They also indicated the building of storm drain systems in critical urban areas to deal with the flooding situation that has become perennial. Indeed, on 13th March 2025, the president proceeded to set up a task force that he commissioned to find an engineering solution to the flooding situation in Ghana, which, in his view, when he was in opposition, was the failure on the part of government to provide solutions to this matter. So I was really surprised to hear the president in 2026 now shifting the blame from government failure to indiscipline and chiefs or landowners who have sold land to individuals to build in waterways and all that. Now I was wondering, when did the president get to know that? When did he realize that the issue of perennial flooding was not the failure of government to provide solutions, but rather indiscipline on the part of Ghanaians and the chiefs who have sold lands to individuals as the cause of our flooding? You see, this lack of candor in dealing with issues of concern to Ghanaians is worrying. And one would ask, how is it that 18 months down the line, the president hasn't demonstrated clearly the
And every rainy season, Accra seems to find itself asking the same question. Why does the city keep flooding? In this explainer, we look at how flooding became a recurring feature of life in Accra, what is driving it today, and whether the solution lies in behavior, planning, engineering, or all three.
When the rains come, Accra does not just get flooded, it gets exposed. The odor rises, drains overflow, roads disappear, markets are submerged, vehicles stall, and families are forced to fight for what little they can save. But this is not new. From the major floods recorded as far back as the 1950s through to the 1980s, the early 2000s, and the painful memories of the June 3 disaster, Accra's flood story has been told over again and again. Today, in June 2026, the capital is still battling the same old enemy. So, who is to blame? Is it the indiscipline of citizens or the failure of government enforcement?
The flooding in Accra is not an engineering problem. It's a problem of a discipline.
But the evidence tells a bigger story. Accra's rainfall is becoming more intense, but the city has also made itself weaker. Wetlands have been filled, open lands have been paved, waterways have been blocked, and buildings have found their way into places where water naturally wants to pass. In the Odo catchment, build-up areas have grown sharply, while woodland has reduced drastically. That means more rainwater now runs faster into drains that are already struggling. The drains themselves are part of the problem. Many are choked with plastic waste, silt, construction debris, and household refuse. But a choked drain is only the final scene. The real failure begins when waste is not collected, when permits are issued in flood-prone areas, when roads are built without proper drainage, and when authorities fail to enforce the rules. What is even more alarming is that flooding is no longer limited to the old hotspots: Circle, Kaneshi, Odona, Nima, Aveno, Adabraka. Today, new areas are also feeling the pressure. Adenta, East Legon Hills, Ashaliboche, Oyarefa, Sakumono, Spintex, and parts of the Kaswa corridor. This is the new phase of Accra's flood crisis. A growing city expanded faster than it is planning. The cost is heavy, lives are lost, homes are destroyed, businesses are disrupted. Meanwhile, Ghana has several institutions with roles in flood management: NADMO, the district assemblies, the Ghana Meteorological Agency, the EPA, the Ghana Hydrological Authority, the Lands Commission, road agencies, waste contractors, and others. But when the floods come, the question remains: who is really accountable? As climate change intensifies and rainfall becomes more unpredictable, Ghana must move beyond the blame game. Yes, citizens must stop dumping refuse into drains, but governments must also enforce planning laws, protect waterways, collect waste consistently, fix drainage systems, and stop approving developments that block the natural movement of water. Otherwise, the story will not change. The rain will come again. The drains will overflow again. The roads will disappear again. And Accra will once more be reminded that water never forgets the path we blocked. Safa Boyni, TV3 News, Accra.
And the call to action is now: we must all play our part to reduce flooding or stop flooding in the country. This is Weekend Central on TV3. We have more after this break. Don't go away.
In a world full of noise, clarity matters. Stories shape us, ideas challenge us. An honest dialogue moves us forward. This is a space for depth, where voices are heard and perspectives matter. Conversations with Dr. Abnanya Kwasmini, coming soon on TV3.
TV3, first in news.
us is changing. Not slowly, not quietly. In the north, the rains that once arrived on time don't come anymore. In the middle belt, rivers and forests disappearing overnight. Along the coast, the sea is swallowing land that families have called home for generations. Rising temperatures, failed harvests, homes lost to tides. This is not a warning about tomorrow. This is the world right now. TV3 and the German Embassy in Ghana. The conversation on climate security implications in Ghana. The Climate Talks 2026. 5 cities, 5 conversations, 1 urgent call to action. Tamale, Bolgatanga, Kumasi, Keta, Accra. Starting this June 2026. The climate talks are coming, and this time, the people most affected by Ghana's climate security crisis will be at the center of it all. Because the time for Ghana to act is now. In a world full of noise, clarity matters. Stories shape us, ideas challenge us. An honest dialogue moves us forward. This is a space for depth, where voices are heard and perspectives matter. Conversations with Dr. Abinanya Kwasmeni, coming soon on TV3.
TV3, first in news.
Is changing, not slowly, not quietly. In the north, the rains that once arrived on time.
With unknown individuals reportedly stealing some of its assets, including electrical cables, while parts of the facility continue to decay. Talensi District Chief Executive Milim Nabomwa says efforts are underway to revive the factory, revealing that 500 acres of land have been earmarked for tomato cultivation as an initial step. He adds that an investor has been identified and is prepared to partner with the Assembly and the Regional Coordinating Council to restore operations. The closure of the factory has contributed to a sharp decline in tomato production in the region due to the lack of a ready market for farmers, while also worsening unemployment. Let's hear from the MCE now.
Yes, thank you very much. The tomato factory is a factory that has been there for ages, and we're all aware of its potential to boost agriculture as well as economic activities in the region and the Talensi District as a whole. I mean, in the region as a whole and Talensi District in particular. What currently is happening is that it has been left unattended to, and so that necessitated my visit. This time around, we are looking up for to revamping it, and I've already contacted an organization called FarmMate, managed by one Mr. Seno, and by the end of this month, Seno will be here for a 2-day tour on that same factory and to organize farmers so that before we can revamp the factory, we need to get the resources. And then of materials that can feed into the factory. And so Farm Mate CEO is coming this time around by my invitation for us to be able to organize farmers. And we are looking at cultivating about 500 acres of land on tomatoes. If that one is assured, and then the support from Farm Mate and from the assembly to provide or help the farmers to farm, when the raw materials are guaranteed, then the revamping of the factory is just a one-day matter. Yeah, so Minister of Agri and then the Agricultural Initiative Presidential Aid in the presidency, all these people are involved, especially spearheaded by the Farm Mate I'm talking about.
Upper East Regional Correspondent Tanko Rabiu Mohammed joins us with more on this. Tanko, do we know when last the factory was in operation and what does it look like currently?
Yes, thank you very much. Like the DC rightly mentioned, the factory has been non-operational for 20 years now as a result of breaking down equipment, logistical hurdles, and then lack of reliable supply of raw material by local outgoers. Yes, so the last time it was in operational was in between 2007 to 2008 when Alan Chamantin was the Trade and Industry Minister when he visited. And then since then, it operated for like a year or so, then it went dead again. And then 2014, when Haruna Idris, now the Education Minister, when he was the Trade Minister, visited the factory assured of its operational, and since then we have not heard anything. Though a lot of government officials have been visiting, including investors, to the place here.
Yes, Tanko, it's obvious it's been a while since the factory operated. We understand that the Talent CDC and other officials from the Agri Department have visited the factory. What is new on this development?
Yes, the DC indicated yesterday that the reason for his visit was to assess the place, because Farmgate, an investor, is coming to take over the place. But before they can do that, they need to have a very close look of the equipment and then how the place has been abandoned for long, because it needs to be rehabilitated before anything can happen. And then the main issue is to meet the farmers who are the outgoers, who are the farmers producing the tomato, because that raw materials, the factory cannot be operational. And that is one of the issues that's resulted in the close down of the factory.
Okay, thank you for the updates. Rabiu Tanko Mohammed, our Upper East Regional Correspondent. Let's just stay up north, because traditional authorities in the Kpembe traditional area of the East Gonja municipality have urged residents, especially farmers, to ensure that any activities of commercial firewood harvesting and charcoal burning that may cause deforestation in the area should be treated with extreme resistance. They are also calling on the residents to embrace the Tree for Life initiative by planting environmental friendly trees to protect the environment. Speaking at the back of a tree planting exercise in Salaga, the paramount chief of the Kpembe traditional area, Kpembe Rura, Bagbane Ndefiso, charged the Forestry Commission to open up more nurseries and make available seedlings for farmers to plant. Christopher Mako is my colleague at Salaga. He's joining us for more. Christopher, what else have the chiefs been saying?
Yes, so Grace, we know that if you look at deforestation in the country, majority of the trees that are felled for fuelwood and charcoal in commercial quantities come from the Savannah region. And so the chiefs have expressed concern over the cutting down of these trees. And fortunately, government has introduced the Tree for Life program. And so they are also encouraging the people to ensure that they don't allow people to come into the forest to cut down trees, but they also cultivate the habit of planting trees so that they can make up the lost trees in the forest. Let's take a listen to what the overlord of the Kpembe traditional area, Kpembe Ura Bambange, and the Episode 4 has been urging the residents.
Last week, I was outside the country. I saw the way they plant trees, the way they take good care of trees, In fact, I was very, very amazed. That is what I want us to also put in our minds here. Anything they put on the ground there, you are going to be the ambassadors of it. You take good care of them, so the next time we come to see this way, we'll all be laughing. So if we are going to do some sort of planting, in fact, I need to be here. 4 years Friday again, when we come here, this place should look more greener than this. I want to urge all students, headmasters and students and tutors around here, what they are going to put on the ground today, they should be ambassadors of that. Take very good care of them and look at them to grow very well so that the place will look greener.
And Christopher, what's been the response of the Forestry Commission to this call by the chiefs?
Yes, the Forestry Commission believes that once the traditional authorities have shown interest in this regard, they are also ready to partner with the traditional authorities and the residents to ensure that they get these trees planted. And so they are going to open up more nurseries, because one of the appeals from the chief is that they should open up more nurseries in communities that are highly populated so that people can go in and pick these seedlings to go and plant. And this, the Forestry Commission has bought into the idea. Let's take a listen to the district manager of the Forestry Commission here in the East Gonja municipality.
Because of an increase in deforestation, particularly charcoal and then firewood. Me as a district manager being brought here, what I intend to do upon the assistance of my superiors, that we are going to cultivate some seedlings that are fast growing, like cassia, melina. They are very fast growing, so that the community will fall on it for their charcoal and their firewood, for the prevention of destruction of the natural stand. So we are going to give them seedlings free for them to have their own plantation, so that after 2-3 years they can harvest it on their own, so that the natural stand, that is the share and other things that they are destroying it, will stop. We have some major communities that I'm going to make sure we establish nurseries there. When nurseries are raised, we'll get seedlings for each community to have their own plantation, and for the firewood, the cassia that I'm talking about, for them to fall on it. We will not just on a central nursery in Salaga here. The major communities, we are going to do a nursery.
So that was the Salaga Forestry Commission Chief. Earlier, my colleague Christopher Maku also spoke to about the Tree for Life initiative. The Western North region has launched their 2026 Tree for Life initiative as part of efforts to restore degraded forest lands and increase the region's forest cover. Authorities are calling on residents, schools, and institutions to actively participate in the exercise to help achieve the region's target of planting 1.8 million trees.
Held in Seshirioso Regional Coordinating Council, brought together officials from the Forestry Commission, traditional authorities, students, and other stakeholders. The initiative forms part of the nationwide National Tree Planting Day celebration under the theme Forest and Economies. Western North Regional Minister Wilbert Petitbrentum joined Forestry Commission officials to plant the first seedlings to officially launch the exercise. According to the minister, government is targeting 30 million trees nationwide this year, with the Western North region expected to contribute 1.8 million seedlings. He noted that protecting the environment remains critical to sustaining livelihoods, preserving biodiversity, and supporting economic growth.
We are here today with all the forestry staff and talking to all the stakeholders that this day is not just the end of it, it's the beginning. We are just commemorating it, but it will be, upscaled to all the region, the districts in the region. We have a target, a national target of 30 million trees that we have to plant in this year's restoration initiative, tree planting restoration initiative. And every region has a target of 1.8 million, which means that Western North region also have that target. So at this juncture, I'm calling on all stakeholders to get involved so that Western North region, we can meet our target and even exceed our target. You know, trees are very important for our livelihood. One, it helps in our economy. At the same time, it restores our biodiversity, make sure that we enhance our biodiversity and also improves our ecosystem. So we want to still reiterate and let the people of Western North region that today marks just the beginning, but everybody should get involved so that our region, as you all know, will continue to be green.
The Forestry Commission says adequate seedlings have been distributed across the region to ensure schools, communities, and institutions fully participate in the exercise. The regional forestry manager, Intiamwa Bennett, is encouraging the public, especially school children, to take ownership of the initiative.
I remember when we were all kids, there were this program they were running in various schools, and that is what motivated me to be a forester. We pick up seedlings, plant them, and nurture them, and your teacher will come and check that everything is well. So ideally, we expect that as kids, you learn things that stay with you forever. So if you're a kid, whatever happens in the house, that is what mostly you are shaped with. So at this point in time, we are calling all school children to go to the various district forest offices or designated points, pick up these seedlings, nurture them, and then take them as a habit so that as they grow, they can appreciate nature.
Residents and business owners in the Northeast region will no longer face the constant threat of business closures and service disruptions following the successful commissioning of its strategic 6.2-kilometer power line. By reconnecting the region to the Bolgatanga substation, the government has effectively bypassed the volatile Garu substation, eliminating the erratic outages that previously crippled local businesses. This intervention now guarantees a consistent power supply to thousands of households, hospitals, and educational institutions, providing the industrial stability required for the region's economic recovery. Regional Minister Ibrahim Tia officially commissioned the new 6.2-kilometer transmission link to the Bolgatanga Waliwale substation, a decisive move to resolve the energy deficits that have long hindered the region's development. Northeast regional correspondent Solomon Kwame Kanaliwe joins us for a look at this development. Solomon, how severe was the impact of the previous power instability on the local economy, and what immediate relief does this bring to the community?
All right, so the impact was so severe. For years, the area witnessed a cycle of business closures, particularly among small-scale enterprises, looking at cold stores, welding shops, barbering shops, and even other hospital activities. When you go to the theater, sometimes they have to suspend surgery because of the electrical challenges. But now, looking at this new adventure, some of the people who now complain about the lightning issue will now have a reliable power supply to boost their business activities. And then also looking at the areas that initially lacked electricity, this extension has also given them advantage to have access to electricity in the Northeast region.
Solomon, we know that the regional minister has also been speaking regarding long-term power supply in the area. Talk to us about that.
All right, so the minister gave assurance to the people. He emphasized that the government is fully committed to ensuring the region enjoys stable power supply to boost socio-economic activities in the Northeast region. He also stated that the government has a concrete plan to establish an independent power station in the Northeast region to guarantee total energy sufficiency. Right. Let's take a listen to what the minister said.
Right.
The decision to connect this part of the region to the Bolgatanga substation is therefore a significant milestone in addressing these persistent power supply challenges. This intervention is expected to improve power supply reliability, reduce outages, enhance voltage stability, and strengthen overall electricity distribution within the region and adjoining communities. This will no doubt ensure effective planning and improve socio-economic conditions for our people. I want to assure you that we remain committed as a government and count on your support for total development of the region. And we want to add that through the Minister of Energy, PURC, we are still appealing for the development of the substation that will take care of the entire Northeast region, which was estimated at $18 million.
Northeast Regional Minister Ibrahim Tiade. Before we go, poor waste management remains a major challenge in Ghana, driven by rapid urbanization, inadequate infrastructure, and unsustainable disposal practices. The problem often becomes more visible after heavy rains, with streets strewn with refuse and gutters clogged with plastic waste. In response, Eco Green Oasis Legacy, an initiative led by the 2024 GMB Queen, Tetiaka, is championing environmental sustainability through waste management advocacy. Well, we bring you more on this story in our subsequent bulletins. But that's it for Weekend Central on TV3. We're live on DSTV channel 279. My name is Grace Hamuajiman. Thank you for joining us. Good afternoon.